ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and fellow environmental enthusiasts. My name is Shantanu and I work as a researcher at PIC. And as your MC for the evening, it is my genuine pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of Team EECC and PIC on this momentous occasion of World Environment Day. World Environment Day, observed annually on the 5th of June, serves as a global platform to raise awareness, inspire action, and encourage positive change for the benefit of humanity. This day provides us with an opportunity to acknowledge the invaluable gifts that nature has bestowed upon us and also reminds us of the responsibility we bear in its conservation. Today, as we commemorate this day and speak on opportunities in green careers, let us recommit ourselves to the cause of environmental sustainability. Let us embrace the power of collaboration as governments, businesses, communities, and even individuals to ensure a harmonious and balanced coexistence with nature. I would now like to welcome our dignitaries for the evening, Professor Amitav Malik, Mr. Pradeep Bhargava, and Dr. Nitant Mate. The flow of the event will be as follows. We begin with the opening remarks by Professor Amitav Malik, the convener of today's event, followed by a brief by Shalvi Pawar on the UCAN program, and the keynote address by Dr. Nitant Mate. We will then have the youth panel discussion, which will be moderated by my colleague Megha, and finally an address by our chief guest, Mr. Pradeep Bhargava. I would now like to introduce Professor Amitav Malik, a Padma Shri awardee and a retired laser scientist. He was a member of the National Security Advisory Board and a pioneer in bringing environmental protection as a matter of national security. He is a trustee at PIC and heads the Energy, Environment and Climate Change vertical. I will now hand over the mic to Professor Malik. Sir.
Namaskar everybody, welcome. Last year, on this day, World Environment Day, we launched what we called a youth agenda for climate action. And this year, in February, we held a day-long Paryavaran Mela Fest on the same issue. And now today, on the Environment Day, we are again back to the youth agenda, because I think rather than worrying about what has happened, let us look at what can be done, and youth is the answer. So that's why you must have noticed that PIC for last at least 1 year or even more has been concentrating on only solutions and how we can do something not depending on government, but in addition to whatever government does. So that has been the theme, that has been the ethos with which we have been working. So as the a trustee of PIC and head of Energy, Environment and Climate Change, let me add to the warm welcome. Today is a day, in my younger days I remember, it was about celebrating the richness of nature. It was about saying thank you for so much that the earth has given us. And slowly over the years, lately, we are worrying about, my God, what's going to happen? So from celebrating environment, we are now becoming a set of people who are really worrying about the kind of damage that human beings are causing to the environment. How can we arrest it, negate it, and repair it? Way back and before 2020, IPCC, with all their knowledge, all the expertise, calculation, modeling, etc., announced that the next 10 years, the decade, will be the decisive decade where emissions must reduce, ecological ecological preservation must get attention, otherwise we are getting into very serious problem. Today in 2023, emissions are going on increasing, destruction of ecosystem is going on happening. All of you are aware, in Pune itself, so many environmentalists have been protesting against the so-called river beautification, not river, riverfront beautification. River, of course, will go to docks. They are also talking about creating new roads and new pathways through the hills. Somehow there is something wrong in our thinking. So, a person like me, who has seen 80 seasons, I kept on wondering what is wrong with us, what's happening. The answer really is very clear that climate change or global warming is not an environmental problem. It's not a geological or other problem. It's a problem of the human being. It is the greed of putting everybody behind you so that I can be in front. And that is what has caused all that we are witness to. I think most of us who are here do not need introduction to the global warming or climate change. But most of us are aware that once the global warming, bushfires, high tides, melting of ice, all this started happening all over the world, touching even the rich countries, then it caught the imagination. As long as it was happening to poorer countries, nobody was bothering about it. So on one hand, we are creating a situation where the damage to environment are going to put us on the back foot because we were taking that for granted. On the other hand, we are creating further division between the rich and the poor. Because the rich can deal with it, the poor are not able to deal with it. Therefore, we are at a kind of a peak of the problem where it might become a social problem, unrest. I think this is being sensed. So, the climate activists, environmentalists, energy experts, whatever you want to call them, they are working from different angles for the simple reason there is no one single solution for all this. Yes, there is one major solution, but that is very difficult to happen. If the human beings give up the greed, if we do not spend more than what we need for happiness, for subsistence. But right now, the whole society, human society, even among the poor, there is a race. Next Chopadi has a TV, I must have a TV. This feeling has to go because it is happening at the cost of your main asset, the Mother Earth. I put some points in writing. I thought I should not miss out something. But since the gathering is very select, I need not elaborate on many things. Governments will do when they see that they are there, means government officials, government leaders, etc., etc. When they think that they are going to lose out in the next election, they will do something. Industries, businesses will do something only when they sense that they are going to lose out in the next quarter. They measure quarter to quarter. Governments measure 5 years to 5 years. So in this imbroglio, what individuals can do, independent of government, independent of everything else, is what we are trying to focus in. Theme of today's dialogue, function, is that all business in future must be green. Meaning that all business, all activities, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is entertainment, whether it is mall, fashion, everything must become more and more green. But that's only part of the problem. That is the part of the problem which is reducing emissions, so that global warming is slowed down and hopefully stopped. But what about the other part of the problem? The ecological destruction. That again is something which is now visible. Many places we know, those who read newspapers, coral reefs are going away. Fish population is changing. Marine system is changing. Because of we say on 1 degree temperature rise, but 1 degree temperature rise on a global scale is so huge that the jet streams high above in the higher atmospheres are changing, and therefore the weathers are changing. I hope we all know that weather and climate are different. Weather forecast is per day, per week, per month. Climate we are talking about season, year, per year. So in this scenario, whatever we do will be useful. And my generation has enjoyed all the assets and the resources of in my childhood or youth. Never bothered about buying water. And now everybody in city is buying water. We are not yet worried, we are complaining about pollution, but we are still breathing the air that is outside. So are you going to lead another 20, 30 years, 40 years? Buy oxygen? Because we can't breathe the polluted air? This is the direction in which we are going, unless we as individuals, the human beings, actually put a break in some way. In fact, the young generation all over, Fridays for Future, we know about the Greta Thunberg in Europe is creating heaven. But have you noticed her tone has changed? She is no longer talking about climate change or global warming. She is saying to the politicians, please prove us wrong. Can you believe? They are complaining that you are neglecting the issue and the government is not caring. So she is saying, please prove us wrong. That's all we are asking. Complete change in narrative. So, under this background, we are here today to talk about what can be done. A lot can be done. Actually, it starts at the individual level. Actually, lifestyle change is what is required. People are buying e-vehicle. I did yesterday. But could I say that I'll sell my car and not get another car? I could not. Why? Because our society, our whole value system, our whole comfort zones are now intertwined in such a way that something or other can change, some other things cannot change. It is important for us to accept in heart, before you go to sleep, many people think of good things, say gratefulness. That gratefulness must include what the nature has given us. And if we are grateful to the nature for what we have been gifted, that's all that's required. Really required is that, okay, at individual level, everywhere, I will spend only what I need. Yes, what I enjoy also to some extent. But today, on the Pune hill slopes, you will find huge buildings are coming up. On top of the hill slope, they have a 14-story or 19-story building. And the top floor sells for the maximum price, which means the top floor has the highest demand. People want to be better than the next person. They don't care what the price. 2005, Government of Maharashtra brought legislation saying no construction on hill slopes. Vandana Chavan Madam was there. Many of us banded together and tried to make it implement. Did not happen. Because there is something more powerful than our wish or the right thing. And that more powerful thing is money. I'm raising a very moot point. What is the disease? It's not the money. Disease is the GDP. In fact, I'm going to organize a complete discussion on GDP very soon. The GDP is a measure of 1935-40, the Second World War time. It measures only amount of volume of money transaction. It does not measure any other parameter. In fact, if there is a calamity, disaster, GDP goes up. Because so much of work has been done. Now this unfortunate train accident that has happened, GDP will go up. Can you believe it? That is the kind of measure that we are using for our life. It has become so ironical, so unbelievable. GDP does not take any cognizance of the earth material used, minerals used, water used. So just getting solar panel and feeling that, oh, at least I'm doing something about it is good, but that's not enough. I think I've spoken so a bit too much. My colleagues are getting worried. So once again, welcome to all of you on this Environment Day 2023. It is a day to feel very moved from inside. That I am part of this society and this is happening and we are worthless, helpless. No, we cannot be helpless. So in every possible way, if you can make a difference, reducing carbon, preserving biodiversity, improving societal harmony, reducing inequality, those are the questions, those are the answers. We can do it at individual level, and if 1,000 people do individual level, 1 million do individual level, that becomes a movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Malik, for your very insightful words. I now request Shalvi Pawar to speak about the UCAN initiative of the EECC. Shalvi is a project associate at EECC and an alumnus of Ecological Society Pune. She is currently working on the Pune decarbonization project of PIC and also contributes to environmental conservation activities. Over to you.
Hi everyone, good evening. So a few months back, EECC, Energy, Environment and Climate Change vertical, we had launched a program called UCAN, which stands for Youth Climate Action Nexus. And under this program, we had conducted an event, Environment Fest, in February. So I would like to give you a gist about what kind of activities we are doing here and how you can be a part of it and what are our future planned activities as well. So just to give you a gist of it, we had conducted roundtable discussions with politicians, with public administrators of Pune and policymakers of Pune, and we had emphasized on the agenda of politicizing climate action. So what happens is a lot of times environmentalists come together, they think of a plan, they work for it, but it stays restricted within themselves, and that's why we thought, why not bring politicians or the decision makers here and ask them, understand their views, and also talk about what our demands are and what we think about how development should actually happen. So this was one session that we had planned, that we had conducted. We also had something called Paryavaran Pet, like we have pets in Pune. We had something called Paryavaran Pet, which was a green business exhibition of Pune's local green businesses and a few more businesses from across the state. So there were around 48 plus businesses that had actually that had come there and exhibited their green products and services as well. Another event was the Green Career Katta, where mentors from various fields of sustainability, renewable energy, sustainable design and architecture, environment policy, they had mentored students about different career options in different fields, different sectors of sustainability. And we also had some eco-entrepreneur talks by the co-founder of CEO Sathi. It's an organization, it's a business which manufactures biodegradable sanitary pads, and that's the reason why we had invited them to give a talk at our event. And we also had founder of Free Charkha for the eco-entrepreneur talk. We had debate competition called Climate Dilemma, where students from different colleges had participated. Okay, so I'll take you back to this slide. So you can program, basically we aim to cater 3 different aspects of climate action. So when we think about climate action, a lot of people usually think it's more of climate activism, but it's not limited to that. We can also have other solutions, other ways of contributing to climate action. So one is climate education and awareness. Second is upskilling for green careers, and third is influencing political decision making. So the fest that was a part of it, it was the first project that we did under UCAN program. Next, we also plan to educate especially youngsters on issues related to climate change, but we also plan to have simplified acts or legal aspects of our Indian legal system, where, for example, a lot of people don't understand what Environment Protection Act is, what Forest Act is, and so we plan to simplify those acts and make it reachable and readable and understandable for common people. And upskilling for green careers is what we are doing today. So today this event on opportunities in green careers is something that we plan to continue ahead. And influencing political decision making basically involves engaging youngsters, engaging them to take an action, come together and form pressure groups. For example, a lot of us don't know how to file an RTI, a lot of us don't know how to, the collector office or the PMC, they have an open day where you can go and ask for information. You can question them about different projects or something, or things that are happening in your city. So through this we plan to educate them about it and help them actively engage in influencing the political parties or administrators to be a part of climate action. And as a part of this, we had also launched a youth manifesto last year on World Environment Day, and we are also going to work on a manifesto oriented towards Pune specific environment problems, and through that we hope to influence Pune's decision makers and make them understand that what actually development means to us. Last slide is about the Green Business Workshop, which is happening in July 2023. And if you are interested in understanding how to build a green business and strategize and understand the whole concept, then you are welcome to join the workshop. And you can also give your names, your information to at the registration desk, so that we can get back to you on this. And apart from this, we also plan to have more certification courses related to sustainability, which will help students, and not just students but young professionals who are maybe working in some other field but plan to switch to a green career. So we'll be having such certificate courses and orientation sessions as well. So that's about the UCAN program. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalvi. So next we have our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Nitant Mate. A career spanning over 35 years in the energy sector, Dr. Mate is a highly experienced mechanical and materials science engineer with recognized research expertise in sustainable development, significant exposure in product design and industry implementation. Dr. Mate has worked extensively in research and product design in the fields of solar, bioenergy, other renewable energy technologies, and environmentally benign processing of materials. He is currently Director Sea Green Solutions, an organization focused on supply, installation, and commissioning of renewable energy and sustainable products and solutions. Sir, please.
Good evening. Thank you for the introduction, and thanks to PIC for giving me this opportunity. Actually an honor to speak in front of all of you on the World Environment Day. Today I'm going to talk about opportunities in green careers. So we have problems, but all problems come with opportunities. So I think it's time that we start looking at opportunities rather than complaining about what is happening, because unless we look at it that way, we are not going to move. And that is why I think it is very important. Even in terms of climate change, I would start saying that instead of looking at climate change mitigation, let us look at climate resilience. So things have happened. What can we do about it? And is there anything worth doing so that we can actually move forward in the right direction? So I will take a few moments to try and understand what is driving all this. It's human aspirations. We want something. We want better life. We want to live longer. We want to live healthier. We want to be comfortable. And to do all that, we spend a lot of energy and efforts. And when we spend energy and efforts, that means we also pollute. We do carbon emissions. And we need to think about that. Now, Professor Malik, while talking about it, said that GDP. I have exactly same point here. Are we looking at development or we are looking at growth? What GDP tries to measure is not exactly, but somewhat, growth. It is all about, last year I was 1, how can I be 1.5 this year? Or maybe how can I be 1.8 next year? So it is all about CAGR, it is compounded annual growth rate. Now, if you look at my first bullet, it says what we want. If you look at my second bullet, it is trying to show what we are measuring. So are we measuring what we want? We are not. It's completely unrelated. And that's what we have been doing for years together. Why? Because it's very convenient. Why? Because it gives a good tool for exploitation. Because this has come from capitalism. Capitalism wants growth. And growth, according to me, is non-sustainable. So whatever we try to do, we have to probably de-link growth from development, first of all. It is not linked at all. So we need to understand that, and we need to focus on development. Because what is happening is every time we grow, we consume. Not just energy, resources. And resources are limited. The earth is a limited place. No matter what we do, we don't get anything more than earth. But human beings are so greedy. We are saying, okay, we will mine the moon. Right? We will mine Mars. But where does it stop? So again, going back to what Professor Malik was trying to say, it is the mindset change that is really required. But while doing mindset change, can we still survive? That's a question that we have to ask, and let us find out if there are any ways to do that. So essentially, we want to do development, and for that, we need some solutions. And those solutions have to be A, renewable. So if I do something today, I should be able to redo it next year. Okay? It should be non-polluting, because we have learned our lesson very hard. When we found crude oil, mankind said that, okay, we have solution for the rest of our life. But in about 100 years, we showed to ourselves how much mess we can do. Okay? So don't underestimate our capacity to make a mess out of things. Start asking questions. Is what I am doing really sustainable? And that's the core of what I'm going to talk today. I'm going to kind of lay a canvas of what is there in terms of opportunities. And let us look at it that way, because I think everybody knows about global warming and different protocols and all the negotiations that those are going on, but they really don't mean anything if we don't act on it. So we have to understand what human being aspires for, and maybe try to look at a very complex mind map. Don't go into details of that. But what I'm trying to show here is there is so much that we want, and so many things are completely interlinked. And if we don't understand the linkages, then we start making mess out of things. So in this entire mind map, I will just try and tell you to focus on the core of that. The core that says that energy, food, water, health, and waste. These are 5, according to my thought process, core areas on which you have to focus simultaneously, not on one after the other, because they are completely linked together. And on the periphery of it, you will see so many other things happening. But the outermost circle talks about education and awareness. The bottom, the upside down writing is education and awareness. So what we need is education and awareness. When we do that, we also need creativity. After creativity, we have to do research and development, we have to innovate. And then after innovation, we will get some solutions. We have to have entrepreneurial people, younger people coming out with some entrepreneurial ideas which will get us into those directions. And then after that, we have solutions, and then we disseminate that in the world over. See, we are very fortunate to be in India, because we have kind of sample of everything in the world. Okay, we are such a complex society, and if something works here, it ought to work almost everywhere in the world. And that is why we are fortunate. We have our own market right here in our own country. We are 20% of world population. So again, whether that's a problem or that's a solution or that's an opportunity is something we have to look at. And I think it is an opportunity. So let's look at these linkages a bit differently. So there are 5 circles I have drawn. And food is one circle, waste is another circle, water is another circle, and all those 3 together form the circle of health. Okay, it is all related to our health. If you want to live healthy, long life, these are the areas where we have to focus on, and we have to understand that they are correlated, they are interlinked. And no matter what we do, for any change that we want to do, any process that we want to do, even upcycling, recycling, whatever, circular economy, whatever we want to call it, whatever we do, whatever process we do, we need energy. So energy kind of encompasses everything, because that is something. So ideally, if I were to look at in a different way, I would say all human problems come to only two buckets. One is energy and other is health. Okay, but there is a little more complex relation in there, and that's why I would say this is how I have drawn it. I mean, I'm not saying this is the best way to draw. You people can think about it in a different way, but draw it differently, but create that linkages in your own mind as to how this whole thing is working. Try to understand that. I work on one thing, I try to solve one thing and create problem in another. It doesn't work that way. It should not be done that way. Again, to look at it, we require paradigm shifts. And we have to move away from growth and go to development. That will take us from moving away from consumption to conservation. Because that is an important paradigm shift that we want. Whatever opportunities we have, are we moving away from consumption and going to conservation? I would say instead of looking at waste management, look at waste reduction. First of all, don't use as much, don't waste as much. And waste is also something, I always call waste is misplaced wealth. Okay. For example, we talk about, Pune, waste is a big problem, municipal solid waste. We have a big problem. And what do we do with it? And then municipality will say that we are not going to take the biodegradable waste anymore, and so on and so forth. But still people throw out biodegradable waste. They don't segregate at source. Pune is a better city in segregation at source as compared to rest of India. So imagine the rest of India, how it will be. So basically waste is misplaced wealth, but don't waste. In our own kitchen, the moment before we call something waste, it was food. Okay, so we just take that food and get something out of that and say, okay, now it is waste. And beyond that, it just follows a different cycle. So we have to understand that minimize waste, that is the way to go. Energy efficiency, yes, you can always look at energy efficiency, but reduce energy demand. Why do I want that much energy? Why do I want to consume that much, first of all? So look at it that way. So paradigm shifts, these are all paradigm shifts. Fossil fuel, go to renewable. And most importantly, if you want to go the sustainable road, then don't look at upfront cost. Look at life cycle carbon emissions. Because not even life cycle cost, I'm not talking about life cycle cost. Of course, there are experts who will argue that cost is directly linked to carbon emissions. A lot of times it is true if things are not subsidized. Okay, but unfortunately, this whole economics is such a funny thing that it skews the reality. And that is where the problem is, because the entire model that we have today is designed for exploitation. So we have to go away from that. Easier said than done. So what we need is sustainable development, essentially. And what will it mean? So we need solutions for generations to come, not just next year or 2 years or 10 years. If we are allowed to survive, maybe next 1,000 years or 10,000 years, we should have solutions which will last long. That's the idea. They should be environmentally benign. Again, anything we do will have an impact on the environment. But how can that impact be minimum is what we have to look at. Now, I'm talking about social aspect. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about equitable access. I'm not saying equal access. Okay? Equitable access is a different thing. So a farmer gets 2 liters of water and I also get 2 liters of water. Doesn't work that way. If the farmer is farming, then he might want 2,000 liters of water. And I'm okay with 2 liters of water. So there cannot be equal distribution. It has to be equitable distribution, depending on what you are really using it for. The solutions have to be reliable, they have to be stable. And I already talked about not mitigation but resilience is what we should be looking at. So altogether, I would say that I won't just read through the entire thing, but the solutions that we are looking for are there for human race's survival. Okay? And that is what is giving us the green career opportunities, which are for minimizing environmental impact, optimizing cost. I'm not saying minimizing cost, because cost is the wrong measure again. Okay, so it is cost in terms of rupees is something that is the wrong measure. Cost in terms of real cost, we don't have a measure for that right now. Okay, so optimizing costs, increase in availability, it has reliability, and increase in quality. So when we have that, it is possible. So the businesses also have to change. Their paradigm has to change. Now this is where your opportunities start coming in. I always keep telling my students from engineering colleges that I ask them a question. After you are done with your degree, how many of you want to pursue higher education? Few of them raise their hand. Then I ask, okay, how many of you want to start business? Very few raise their hand. I always keep telling them that, look, it is important to be someone who gives jobs rather than who wants a job. And in this field, I think there is tremendous scope for entrepreneurship. And that is because sustainable resources are decentralized. And according to me, I'll probably have that line somewhere in my talk later, but according to me, I think what we should be looking at is smallest possible viable capacity for any solution. Our conventional wisdom tells us that if you want to reduce cost, increase capacity. In biodiesel plants, for example, biodiesel is something that you are aware of, that it is a diesel-like fuel which comes from vegetable oil and which replaces diesel and which emits 40% less carbon dioxide and so on and so forth. So if you have a biodiesel plant, people say, okay, fantastic, let me build a biodiesel plant that will produce 1 million tons of diesel per year. Okay, now people build plants like that, and those plants started and failed. Because 1 million tons, that means 300 tons of raw material you would require every day. You will bring it from everywhere. So you will transport that. You will emit a lot. And then when you convert that, after converting it, you will sell it again, but not at the spot where you are producing it. It has to be transported again for selling. And then you are wasting the whole resource. Plus, what is happening is this large plant, since biodiesel is made from waste vegetable oil, you don't have control over the quality. And when you don't have control over the quality, your plant goes for a toss if the inlet quality is bad. And this is what happened with most of the plants. And people said, okay, biodiesel doesn't work as a business. Now that is wrong. If you have a very small plant, we built a plant for 2.5 tons, 2,500 liters per day. And the guy had payback in 6 months. Investments very, very low. Not 300 tons per day. It is 2.5 tons per day per batch processing plant. So you require solutions, you have to think differently. So sustainability has to be at the core of your business. Then only you will start thinking differently. Your focus has to be on utilizing local resources. And then, real costs, you have to somehow start looking at them. What are the emissions? What are the emissions while bringing my raw material? And so on and so forth. I mean, actually what you should be looking at is what are the embodied emissions in whatever I'm putting up? And is it going to pay for itself? See, we were doing some exercise for PIC last year or year before that, and we said that, okay, renewable energy is what something is good for Pune city. And then we started asking ourselves a question, okay, you are putting solar power plants. Now, does it pay for its own emissions? How long does it take for the solar photovoltaic plant to pay for its own emissions? And of course, we were able to model it and say that, okay, it has a life of 25 years, but in about 2 years' time, it will pay for its own emissions. So emission-wise, it has a payback which is much, much superior, fantastic. Biogas, same thing. Wind turbines, same thing. So you have to think of, even if you think that it is a renewable solution, you still have to evaluate it properly. And then you have to work on everything from cradle to cradle, circular economy, people are talking about that. And when you start doing like that, you start seeing opportunities for businesses, for employment, for services that you have. So only if you go this way, then you are going to build something which is sustainable. How do you do it? It doesn't happen overnight. Okay, so you have to go step by step. And that's why I say, take an approach where one step at a time. For example, if you believe in sustainability, you say, okay, what am I going to do? Individual level, what Professor Malik said. Okay, I'm not going to use plastic. Fine. So that is one step at a time. Do I commit to not using plastic and do I keep it that way? Then, do I take targets like I'm consuming 20,000 liters of water in a year? Can I reduce that 20,000 to 19,000? So these are the kinds of questions that you start asking. These are the kind of targets that one has to take year on year. And identify products and services which will allow you to do that. So water conservation, water recycling, that is where the opportunities will start coming in. You may have to redesign the products and solutions, rethink about them altogether. Because present solutions that we have are dependent on the present system of measurement, which measures growth and economy. And what we really want is something that measures carbon emissions and reduction in carbon emissions and sustainability altogether. So this will lead to transformation of businesses. And what we should be looking at is transformed businesses, transforming businesses. And those are the opportunities that one would have. I will not spend too much time on the transformed business, but what you will be looking at is local inputs, local solutions, local employment, then local consumers. So it becomes local. Prime Minister once said, vocal for local, right? It has a very valid sustainability argument. We kind of miss it, but you have to understand, local is what is there, and that should be there. Reduce carbon footprint, that is most important. There was a person, author, Schumacher, he wrote a book, Small is Beautiful. We forget about it. We just say, there was a book, Small is Beautiful. Do we practice that? We don't. We don't see the beauty of it because we are completely, whitewashed with the present methods of measurement. Large is good. Okay, so even there are ads where people talk about large. Okay, so this is something that we have to somehow start contradicting and start questioning. When you do this, it will actually take us to self-reliance. Atmanirbharta will automatically come because you have decentralized resource, you have decentralized processing, you have decentralized customer, and you have created jobs, multiple numbers of them. And that is how the transformation is going to take place, and each of this is going to create the opportunities that we are looking for. So quickly, another 2 to 3 minutes and I'll finish. But basically what we are looking at is this transformation is going to happen. And I initially said that there are 5 areas on which you have to look simultaneously. And if we start looking at those 5 areas, there's a big busy matrix. Don't go into details of that, but what I've tried to show is 5 areas are there in columns, and it says energy, food, water, health-related stuff, and waste. And the rows that you have different basic science, engineering, technology, and other things. So if you have skills in any of these, you practically can work on any of these. So each black bullet indicates that, say for example, if I'm talking about energy, then efficiency and conservation, then there's physics involved, chemistry involved, blah blah blah. If you look column wise, you will see that. So if you look at this, you will realize there is no dearth of opportunities. Any skill I have is good enough for me, actually. So let us take an example. What happens? I mean, how will the jobs look like? So if I am looking at resource use efficiency, what kind of opportunities I have? Measurement, audit, reduce, reuse, recycle. There are possibilities in there. Hybrid systems, design, make, manufacture, implement. Smart microgrids. That's the way to go. The future of energy is going to be, I keep telling all the time that it's going to be a network of smart microgrids. And that is also microgrids of renewable hybrids. That's the future of energy. And you have tremendous opportunities in there. Waste management, energy efficiency, pollution control, you name it, and you can have number of opportunities in there. I'm not going to just read this matrix or read this table. But essentially what this is going to give you is opportunities in training, opportunities in education, opportunities in design, engineering, manufacturing, construction, operation, audit. When you are doing something, you have to audit whether you are doing it right or wrong. What was the baseline? What did I say I am going to do? Am I doing it? So auditing, skilling, extremely important. I said we are going to have decentralized businesses, decentralized services. You require a lot many people. You require a lot many people who understand at least something about that. So they require the skill. They may have basic education, but they may not have skill. So skilling is an opportunity. And then consultancies in doing all these things. And innovation. Innovation is, I've written last, but it is most important. Innovation is what one should thrive on. In all these things, if you don't think out of the box, you will start selling old wine in new bottle. Like selling an electric car instead of a diesel car. You are still consuming, you are still manufacturing. Are you able to de-link development from growth? If you do that, then only you will have what you are looking for. And there are opportunities. I just tried to put in front of you the entire canvas. What you have is sun. That's the only source of energy. And that's why we are surviving. May it be solar thermal, solar photovoltaic, solar photosynthetic, or even hydro energy. We require energy for development. We require energy for survival. And we require energy that is sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you for the address, Dr. Mate. I would now like to invite our panelists for the youth panel discussion. We have with us today 4 distinguished panelists. Let me introduce them one by one. First, we have Mr. Ashay Abhyankar. Mr. Abhyankar completed his LLB from ILS Law School, Pune, and his Masters in Law from the University of Pune. He worked with SEBI, India's stock market regulator, as legal officer, working with the investigation department between 2007 and 2011. He has been guiding and mentoring students and civil service aspirants on public policy and the Indian Constitution at Abhyankar's IS Academy for over 10 years. He has completed his credentials in public leadership at the Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University, as a run-up to a master's in public policy. Next, we have Hamsa Iyer. Hamsa grew up in Thane and was trained at the Center for Development Studies, Pune, and Indian Institute of Human Settlements, Bangalore. Hamsa has worked with India Water Portal, wherein she travelled across Maharashtra and Goa to document stories of water. Shortly after, she joined the Observer Research Foundation, where she worked on sanitation, environment and education initiatives. She has also been actively working toward developing sustainable menstruation solutions. In Pune, she has been working with MKCL in the green economy space. Here, she has looked at a wide spectrum of green opportunities and studied the paradigm shifts that are desperately needed for this world to be more sustainable. Hamza has also been working with Anil Kokand, the founder of Pro Earth Ecosystems Private Limited, with whom she saw a common vision of implementing waste management practices. Next, we have Mr. Siddharth Bhagwat. Siddharth is a dynamic environmentalist with expertise in sustainable business development. As a 20-year-old student, while completing his bachelor's degree in environmental science, he had a unique opportunity to represent India at the International Antarctic Expedition in 2015 as a part of a global team to experience and study the impacts of climate change in Antarctica. Siddharth is also passionate about showcasing environmental initiatives through various media platforms such as blogging sites and has initiated a YouTube channel called Sustainability What. He likes to make videos on how to incorporate a sustainable lifestyle using renewable power, electric vehicles, and other green products. He himself uses an electric vehicle. He holds a master's degree in circular economy and life cycle analysis from Germany and has worked in several countries across the EU and Africa. He currently leads the Pune Decarbonization Project at Pune International Center. Lastly, we have Purnima Agarkar. Purnima is an environmental scientist from Bharti Vidyapeeth Institute of Environment Education and Research, Pune. She has completed her PGDM in Urban Environmental Management and Law from National Law University, Delhi and CEL WWF. She is a certified education for sustainable development trainer from Germany and a certified climate reality program mentor under the Climate Reality Leadership Core program. Purnima has 4 years of experience as an environmental consultant in green building certifications and EIA for building and construction projects in Pune. Since 2016, she has been associated with Laya Resource Center and Samuchit Envirotech as a sustainability facilitator on urban sustainability issues and climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies. She is also the secretary of the Indian Network on Ethics and Climate Change, INEC, a network of like-minded people working on climate change policies, education, and advocacy. Now, my colleague Megha Phadke will take over as moderator of the panel discussion. Megha is a fourth year environmental law student at ILS Law College, Pune. She is a young climate advocate and has been working in the field of environmental conservation since she was 15 years old. Along with her studies, she works in the field of climate policy research at EECC PIC. Over to you.
Hello? Yeah. So we've already heard a lot about why we need to talk about green careers and opportunities in the sustainability field. So now we are going to meet 4 young professionals who have already walked the talk. As Shantanu mentioned, we have with us an amazing collection of speakers from different areas of this field, 4 very different areas. Because that is what I like about the field of sustainability. There is a space for each and every one of you here. Because you can be in any stream you like, doing any career path you've decided for yourself, but you can still contribute to this field. I have a lot of questions for all of you, and I'm hoping to have a wonderful conversation ahead. So without further ado, let's get started. My first question will be to Siddharth, and this is something that students like me face a lot. So I grew up believing that one can definitively contribute to this field of sustainability only if he or she is into the field of science or doing environmental science specifically. But there is a growing need for people of all streams to work collaboratively and cohesively in this field now. We need a cohesive effort. And a lot of interest is coming up in this space also. So if someone is not from a scientific stream or not from a stream of pure sciences or engineering, how can they contribute to this field? And how can they upskill themselves to make themselves eligible to work in this sector? And to follow up on that, can you tell me any specific certifications or diplomas or courses which they can do to upskill themselves?
Thanks a lot for the question, Megha. The sustainability field is so vast. I think with Dr. Marty's presentation, it was very clear with the whole matrix and dynamics. Just before the event started, I was talking to two students. One is from a zoology background and one is from a physics background. And there's a lot more from BA arts as well. So, for people, especially youngsters coming out of colleges, they really want to work in this field that complements their own careers as well. So, like you said, not necessarily one has to be from an environmental science background. So there's two ways we can go about this. One is you classify yourself as an advisor or a consultant, as an expert, right? Where you do a good amount of knowledge through your bachelor's, master's, or even a PhD, and you start your own consulting firm. And there's a lot of opportunities to be explored here, especially from an industry standpoint. So whenever we think about the industry, there's two things to consider here. One is a product-based industry, and secondly, it's a service-based industry. Now, for product-based industries, we have concepts like circular economy that are coming in. Life cycle analysis is also a very upcoming stream. Someone needs to analyze and tell you if this is eco-friendly or not. If tomorrow someone has to make a choice between two types of mobile phones, for example, right? I don't have the knowledge right now to make a choice which is more sustainable or which was manufactured in a more sustainable way. So we need expertise from that standpoint, from material science, engineering, to get into analyzing its footprint and the individual footprint of all the materials present into it. So this is one way. Another way that's coming up is and this is something that you don't need to be from pure environmental science background, is doing a lot of certification courses. CIA has a lot of courses on carbon accounting, resource management, energy management. And these are small courses, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, couple of months as max. You can have these courses, these certifications complementing to your streams that will help you in any company that you work with, right? SEBI today has mandated the top 1,000 companies to do BRSR reporting and even ESG. And that slowly is going to be translated into a lot of other companies down the stream as well. So ESG reporting is something that's also coming up. You can certify yourself as an auditor or a consultant, and you can work in the market. And lastly, I'd also like to touch up on a very important concept that I personally believe in. So whenever I did my bachelor's in environmental sciences, but when I did my bachelor's, I realized I don't have the foolproof knowledge to work in this field, right? Because environmental science and sustainability is all about change management. It's understanding a bit of technical aspect, a bit of management aspect, dealing with people, executing projects, which they don't really teach you in this field. So this is something that I feel is a very big gap. So if you have a good, strong bachelor's, like say as a lawyer or as an engineer or even a medical student, to top it off with a master's in sustainability, I feel is much more valuable. Because you have a good base in one of the conventional fields out there, and you also have the knowledge of impacting it from a sustainability standpoint. So these are, I feel, a couple of ways in which we can go about this.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, thank you so much for that. So now that Siddharth spoke about the different opportunities and specifically in the field of ESG and corporate sector, I'd like to diverge a bit to a very different, which seems like a very different part in the sector, which is a non-profit space. So Purnima, you've worked in the field of non-profits and NGOs since many, many years. So you will be the best person to answer this. So if a young student like me wants to set up an organization or any non-profit, given the current Indian scenario, what is the best sector which has scope for this? Because there are certain companies which are product-based, like Ashaya or Refillable or Retelka. And then there are other organizations who are into providing services, like consultancy and ESG and other things like that. So what do you think is the ideal game plan for someone young who wants to start up their own organization?
Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Megha. Yeah, I have been working in this sector of non-profit organizations, but what I feel strongly is if you want to start up and get into such kind of a sector, then first is you need to be passionate about whatever you want to do. Okay, it can be anything then. Like I have a lot of friends who are passionate about energy efficiency. They are making biogas really cool. Anybody can set up a biogas in their plant, in their house. It can be of any size. So otherwise, we think, okay, biogas kaise bithayenge? But it has gobar and you have to take care of it. But then it sounds very difficult. But somebody who's passionate about it is earning money out of it and is doing a great job. So I also have somebody who's working in making renewable energy actually a good business. Today I know how we can go LPG free. Right, that is something which most of us would not think of doing. But the thing or a biggest enabler there is obviously your passion. You want to try to solve a problem. You should know what kind of problem you want to solve. We have n number of problems, and especially in this sector, I think we have heard of enough of problems now, and it's no more a choice that we have, but I think it's a need of the hour where we understand, okay, this is one problem and there are multiple ways to solve those problems, and we have a lot of guides. But as Siddharth said, that if you are into a non-conventional sector, in a conventional sector, then it becomes easier for you to solve a problem, I think. So I feel that if there is somebody who is into a conventional startup, that person knows how to use those skills, and that you can use it in somewhere in the environmental field. Okay, because it's no more a different field now. I don't feel that there is something called as a green job. Every job is a green job. You can integrate the principles of the issues that we are learning on in fact every field. So yeah, that is something which is the biggest enabler. But then if you ask me what is the problem, then yes, we lack funds. Every one of us in the startup sector, but that is a problem for any field, I would say. But then we have opportunities. We have organizations who can fund. We have programs that can be funded. We have, and now a lot of ESG kind of concepts are coming up where they are inclined to help people who are trying to get into this sector. So I think it's a good opportunity. If anybody would want to go in a non-profit sector, it's now profitable, I would say. Okay.
I think I agree when you said that you need to choose your battles. You can't solve every problem out there, because it'll just end up in you getting anxious over all of the problems and the heaps of problems to be solved. And one such problem that needs to be solved is waste. And as Nitansa rightly said, I think that the narrative around waste is changing a lot, and it's no longer looked at from perspective of it being garbage, but it's more along the lines of materials which can be resourced. And there is a potential for circularity there. So when I say waste, I think you know whom I'm referring to. I'll be asking Hamza. So I read a news article a few days back that PCMC has started this new initiative to install 33 recycle reduce plants. Yeah. And that is something which is extremely interesting. So, but this is something which has been funded and ideated by the government. And I think what kind of questions we have as youth is that how do you see the expansion of green jobs, especially in the sector of entrepreneurship in waste management, which are not tied to the government? So what can we do without getting the help of government, without being in the government, and how can we help them in this field? And second is that what are some of your key takeaways from your journey at ProEarth and Eco Products India?
So I'll talk about it with an example so that we can all relate to it much better. Notices are being sent out to societies saying that they must now manage their biodegradable waste. And there's a transition that's happening from sending your kachra to the municipal gadi to saying that now I will internalize this. And I see Shamla Tai here, and she's helped so many people in this transition, right? So the first key critical job that I think a lot of conscious citizens absolutely take forward is the capability of saying, yes, I can do it. And yes, that it need not be life-threatening, and yes, that garbage need not stink. And there comes this demonstrability of people like Shamlatai, people like others who say that composting does not smell. And to break that barrier, you must have proof of concept. You must be able to take your garbage and show them it is actually black gold. And you have to do that with confidence. You may have to carry earthworms in your pockets, nourish them with some fruit peels, and be able to break the ice saying, "Yahan aapko kachra mein kahan gandagi aa rahi hai," right? So when we walk into a project like that, while the government is pushing people to be able to, compost their wet waste, and that's the mandate. The mandate is not for recyclables. The mandate is actually coming in for wet waste. And it's coming with a good reason, because 60% and above of our waste is actually wet waste. This year's UN theme is Beat Plastic Pollution. 60% of our recyclables are plastic, but that 60% recyclables can't be recycled if it's contaminated with food waste. So if you don't take care of the organics, the dynamics in that changes, right? Now I'll give you another example. 100 flat society, how many tenants do we have and how many owners do live there? So give or take, 10%, 15% are tenants. And you have all sorts of cases, bachelors hai, family hai, who's going to pick up the garbage on time and who's going to make sure that they do door-to-door segregation. So we actually ran a project in a 672 flat story in Hinjawadi phase 3. And we did a project where we got data from the housekeeping on door-to-door. And just for kicks, we said, how do you now create accountability, right? Because 672, and you know how these new buildings are, like everybody has their own private space. Nobody has a sense of community that's coming in. How do you create accountability? How do you make sure every door segregates and keeps segregated waste outside? So we said, chalo, let's just put this data in public domain. We put it on an Excel sheet which is available to the entire community, and we just color coded it into 3 parts. We said the guys who are doing great were green, the guys who were not doing so great were in orange, and the guys who didn't do it were in red. Promptly one fine day the chairman of the society called and said, "Aaj mera ghar red dikh raha hai." We didn't go them, we didn't punish them. We just told them what is as is. So we need data. We needed data management at that space, right? We have one colleague of ours going every Friday door to door telling them kachra 3 tarike mein segregate karna hai, because we wanted to counter that 15% population that is constantly floating. They got used to us, obviously. So we went on a Tuesday. Okay, when they got used to us on a Tuesday, we went on some other day. We had to change with the population that was changing there. They got used to us, we got them used to something else. Now I'll give you a very tandem example. How many of you know how much kachra you produce in a day? 1 kg, 2 kg, 5 kgs, 10 kgs. 1 kg? You're a family of 4, 3, 4, 3.5. If you're a joint family of 7, you wouldn't produce 3.5. You wouldn't produce 1. You'd produce more. So you have to design systems that work like that. If you're a canteen that is catering to 1,000 people, the kind of dal that is left over, it's so disheartening to see that there is so much of food, good food that is being wasted. But you have to manage that. You can't sort of like, at the end of the day, subah banaya aur khana at 4 o'clock, you can't be wondering, abhi ye kisko khilaye. It doesn't work like that. So how do you build a technical expertise to manage that kind of wet waste that is coming in, right? Because it's a biological process. It's not like, एक कप में आपने मैगी नूडल्स डुबाया, मैगी मसाला डाला और आपको 2-3 मिनट के बाद मैगी मिलेगा. It's not like that. So you really have to understand the biology of it. You need microbiologists who can give you insight. हमारे हर घर में खाना रोज हर टाइम पे बहुत अलग बनता है. So put that into 150 flats, you've got a great consortium of diversity of waste. So you need microbiologists who can understand a poha leftover with an idli sambar leftover with a pulao leftover. And it's a concoction, it's a beautiful concoction. But you need to understand to convert that beautiful concoction into soil-loving bacteria that will give you back nutrient-rich compost. And to be able to create that magic, like Purnima said, you really need to have, I would say, earthworms in your gut to be able to say you can really manage and process that kind of waste. And when you leave and when you manage this wet waste, which is legal compliance, right? You are left with great valuable recyclables, which you're not just creating a chain for everybody who's into waste picking or who's into aggregating that into somebody else. You're dignifying everybody in the process. You're dignifying it for your own house, the housekeeping agency, the municipal truck that is coming to pick up everything else, the waste picker who's working there, to the recycler who's dealing with all sorts of stuff there. You've created chain of dignity through and through. And that's where the experience of, the kicks of, while we may not make great money, but it's great good night sleep every night, right? I would say that that's a bigger takeaway than most of the other things. So when I met Anil, I was at a point of time where I was shutting down Eco Products India, because I said, rather than looking at managing waste, let's look upstream, let's try and reduce. So let's look at zero waste products, lifestyle shifts and all of that. And it got very disheartening to see that people weren't very keen on jumping onto that bandwagon. But I realized that in the process of identifying products, even for people to make, say, sustainable products, say if you were to move from an electric speaker to an amplifier, bamboo amplifier, the kind of processes that have to go back and be able to make something like that, it's a lot. And I felt like the market was not so mature. But my heart kept drawing to composting, because I really feel like that's where the real magic is. That's where you can see, ooh, wow, so many other species on this planet exist. That's where, when I spoke with Anil, we said we need to be able to provide dignified jobs to everybody who's sort of coming in this space. And dignified jobs in this space are very difficult to give, because we now need to be able to push back to our customers and say, aaj aapka kachra mixed tha, please segregate, then we will be able to do that. So our entire model is about providing a service where we are getting real-time data on how much of that waste is actually mixed and how much of that is actually segregated. And we do a lot of innovation and design. So right from supervising the quality of the project to monitoring that, to be able to give people back harvest, we've realized that we're able to provide a customer value addition, which I think a lot of us miss in this space. We feel that, aapne kiya, it's your responsibility to do it. But when you go to a society with, say, about 150 flats or 500 flats or 1,500 flats, the convenience for them to not deal with the other nonsense that's going on is huge. And along with that, for them, the saving is not just on, say, paying a tipping fee or paying for the transport. It's also about reduced weeding exercises. It's also about reduced costs on adding in new plants, because the compost is constantly nourishing something else. And it's also about the immediate benefit of their surroundings having gone completely clean. They're not dealing with messy dustbins. They're not dealing with labor that's not showing up. They're not dealing with the inconveniences. Instead, here's a value addition that works at scale, at their level, and we're able to provide for that. So I think having that value addition and knowing that the waste that is coming from our 150 projects and that 10 metric tons being processed day in and day out, decentralized across different sites, makes me feel that we made 2 of our landfills slightly lighter, right? And that's a good thought to sleep with every night.
So when you were going around, am I audible? Did you have to tell them the policy implications of it? Did you have to tell them that, okay, see, this is the law, if you don't do it, you're going to have to face charges or anything? Or did it happen solely because of that value addition and that mentality shift?
I would say it's a combination of 2 or 3 things. The first is that the compliance is coming much more stronger from the government than it was a couple of years ago. As a social enterprise, I will say I want more of that. Because I think the fact that a government agency is able to say, guys, get your act right, is very empowering, 1. 2, it's also the fact that a lot of citizens want good solutions. It's not like, Janta Janardhan baithi hai wahin pe. They want something that is also convenience value to them. So you also see that increasingly in the market. And I think the third part is that costs for soil fertilizers are going up in the urban setting as well. So here is a connected program for them, which is, you can see it, within 3 months or 4 months. So I think that value addition is very implicit and like in your face, I would say.
And I think I would like to share something which I learned very recently. So, when you're talking about value addition, it's not just the consumers who have value addition, it's to all the people who are in the entire system of waste management. Because I read a very interesting study about a startup called Refillables. So, what they're doing is that they are tying up with the Indian Waste Pickers Association. And the waste is directly going from these people who are actually going to landfills and segregating the waste to the startup. So they are not only improving the quality of the people who consume their product, but also the people who are in the entire chain which leads up to the product being to the waste being segregated. So I think that is also important. Value addition to all levels of people and to all the stratas of people involved in the entire system of waste management is important. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. So yeah, now we are coming to a field which is spoken about very, very widely in the entire climate action dialogue, and who is the kind of field which has a lot of misconceptions also, but also has a lot of gaps when it comes to students understanding about what kind of opportunities are in that field. And yes, I'm talking about policy making. So most people, including me, even I had that notion that policy making is strictly restricted to publishing policy papers, publishing white papers, and then forgetting about it. So what will happen of those policy papers, right? Is it something you just add on to your resume to get admissions into masters? Or because we work in a network of think tanks and we produce policy papers very regularly. What are there any different job profiles in this field and opportunities available for students in this intersecting space of sustainability and policy? In a way in which they can make a very tangible impact to the society? What happens of those policy papers? And what are the skill sets required for the same?
It's too many questions bundled into one, but I'm going to try to kind of just navigate all of them. The first thing is, the first question is that does policy and effectiveness kind of intersect, right? So I think today's event, this table is really intersecting. I would just give you a very, very simple example. We could have easily had a couple of plastic bottles of water right here. Right, you could have had these vases with some flowers which can also be recycled. You can probably carry them back. And so this intersection is absolutely possible. Now, when you look at public policy and sustainability, right? So here we are sitting today and talking about environmental sustainability. So, you know, the word environment before sustainability is actually a misnomer. Because to just expand the scope of this question a little bit, when you look at environmental sustainability, I'm looking at the ecosystem sustainability. So I'm looking at structural factors which would essentially look at political, social, economic, cultural intersections. You're also be looking at some kind of implementation gaps that you could have, particularly related to behavioral factors, like for example, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, where you're up against a lot of challenges with implementation because of certain cultural, religious, social taboos. And the last and most important thing is with regard to how appropriate your policy is. Now, when public policy intervention started, particularly in the United States, this is something that India has been lagging for many, many years. We really don't have a lot of discourses in public policy, purely out of the understanding that how do you build policy? Right now, even with regard to the word policy, you have a word public before it, which also tells you that you have to be very, very mindful about who you are designing the policy for, to what extent is it going to work, and if it's going to work at all. So when you look at public policy interventions, you're generally looking at the efficiency, economy, effectiveness. But I would like to add one more point here is how appropriate is it? So is it appropriate to your ecosystem and to your environmental context where you're implementing it? Secondly, are you able to decentralize this model entirely? If yes, how are you going to be able to do it? And secondly, and most importantly, when you build public policy, be ready for it to fail. Right? This is a huge pressure when policies are made, that you are forced into thinking that they are going to be a success. And it's really not required, because you see, public policy is such an interesting domain space where actually practice guides the theory. So I could put a lot of things on paper. I could tell you that, these are the government schemes, policies, programs, etc., and let's try to march forth with it. But when you actually decide to be on the ground, when you're trying to look at certain solutions, local, global, etc., you would realize that you're failing. And it's perfectly okay to fail, because you are at least being able to identify the gap in that policy. What exactly is it that is not working? And once you know what that gap is, you can make minor iterations. You allow for these iterations to run. You can kind of, like I was listening to the entire waste management thing with, housing societies. Maybe you find an iteration, you find something that's not working, you can sandbox it. You can start working around that sandbox, and then perhaps you can amplify it and scale it up even better. So when you're building policy, the whole issue is couple of dictums of public policy. One is that garbage in, garbage out. So please ensure that there is some evidence-based research that you're working with. Numbers are required in terms of the quantitative space. And secondly, most importantly, whatever can be measured can be managed. So don't try to chew more than you can digest, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult. You're going to have problems innovating, and definitely larger problems in scaling up. Right. So now, as far as careers are concerned, and not only careers in terms of students, but I was just looking at the very interesting slides about what you're planned out for July. And I think with UCAN, I think that is the initiative, right? So with that, one very interesting issue is, when you are trying to build entrepreneurship models at decentralized levels, whether it be at an individual level, community level, societal level, etc., there is no handbook. Right? A person doesn't know where he's to go, what he's to do. Very similar to like a single window clearance kind of a system. So I believe if initiatives in UCAN can focus on building like a handbook that gives people basic inputs about what kind of businesses can be built, what are the kind of career opportunities available, what are the government frameworks that you have to adhere to, and with the experts that PIC has, you can have certain kind of incubation and ideation workshops. I think that is the need of the hour, because everybody wants to start, and like what Dr. Mate mentioned, that small is very beautiful. Right, it is. So at every individual level, there is definitely going to be a creation of some impact. So you start small and dream big. I think that's the way forward.
So when you talk about starting small, so I understand when you're talking about individualistic actions, so actions you take at home, sustainability begins at home. You, as Tansar also said, you need to manage your carbon emissions, you need to manage your amount of water you use per household, and try to minimize that. When it comes to research, or when it comes to career-wise, are there any other avenues other than writing policy papers in policy making? What can students do? Are there any opportunities in research? Are there any opportunities in academia? Can you throw a bit of that?
There are lots and lots of opportunities. Unfortunately, in terms of research and academia, India is lagging behind. And the very honest answer for that is that there is no money. Right? Because any sort of research, when you look at foreign universities, particularly if you look at the entire ones in Scandinavia, Copenhagen, Sweden, that's Denmark, of course, and Norway, they have large amount of funding which is available for researchers, for scholarships. So in terms of research and academia, India is lagging behind. So that is one definite issue. In terms of career opportunities, and what you could do at an individual level, I have a very interesting anecdote. So I was presenting a paper in Chiang Mai in Thailand about 2 months ago. And what I noticed was that everybody, when they are traveling, whether at the airport or bus terminals, or they're generally coming to university, they always carry an empty bottle of water with them, right? And this is not a plastic bottle. Now, this is very important because being a tropical country, you can imagine the amount of plastic waste that you could generate just in one tiny country that is building itself only on tourism. So at every level, you are having certain changes that are being made. Like for example, when you're crossing security at an airport, you are not allowed to carry bottles of water at all, right? They seize it from you and they're kind of disposed of. So they are creating a sort of a nudge and effect and some kind of behavioral changes within people. They are incentivizing them to probably use greener and better solutions, and most importantly to keep the carbon footprint low. So at an individual level, there is a lot that can be done. In terms of career opportunities, you are also from we come from the same alma mater, so being from ILS, so there is so much focus today on people who want to probably if I have to have a green startup, right? I need a lawyer. I need somebody who is going to help me with putting the entire business idea together. I'm going to need somebody from the engineering space, right, who is going to help me technically incubate the idea. And most importantly, I'm going to need enthusiastic citizens like the ones who are present here today. So there is no focus on representative government and more on participative government. So the participant, the citizen is the government. And I believe that is the road forward, just to keep looking ahead.
I think we have come to a full circle, because what I took away from your answer was that we need cohesive action. We just don't need scientists, we need designers, we need architects, urban planners, lawyers, politicians. I mean, every stream working together to fight for this, and only then is it possible. So with this, we come to the end of this rather insightful and exciting conversation. And now I open the floor for the audience. If you have any questions, and I would actually like to invite Nitant sir also to the stage, because he's an expert in renewable energy. So if you have any questions regarding that, feel free to answer. Any questions? Any comments? Yeah.
B.H. Shrikant, environmental scientist. Mr. नितांत माटे, तुमचा प्रेझेंटेशन खूपच अभ्यासपूर्ण होता, खूपच चांगला होता. पण काही गोष्टी जे आमच्या तुमच्या हाताच्या बाहेरच्या आहेत, तर तो प्रश्न कसा सोडवणार त्याच्यावरती हा प्रश्न नाही आहे, हा जस्ट चॅलेंज टू दिस अवर एन्व्हायरमेंटल सायंटिस्ट थिंक टँक. आता जे बी मेकॅनिकल इंजिनिअरिंग ते बाहेर पडतात आणि ते कॅम्पस इंटरव्ह्यू घेतला, टाटा कॉम्प्युटर्स, पटनी कॉम्प्युटर्स, मल्टीनॅशनल कंपनीज, तर त्यांना सुरुवातीलाच त्यांना इंडस्ट्रीमध्ये पाऊल पण ठेवलं नाही आहे, फक्त पुस्तकी ज्ञान आहे. त्यांना जवळजवळ महिन्याला 3 लाखाचं पॅकेज, 4 लाखाचं पॅकेज महिन्याला इतकं मिळतं. आणि ही जे ॲडोलेसंट पिरियड आहे तो जसा 17, 18, 20 वर्षाचा असतो, मुलगा किंवा मुलगी, काय तर एवढी समज आलेली नसती. तर मला जवळ महिन्याला 4 लाख पगार मिळतो, तर मी बसून स्मार्टफोनवरती ते स्विगी, ते बिग बास्केट, ॲमेझॉन, त्याच्यावरती नुसतं हे मागवा ते मागवा ते, पण ते कुठनं येतं तर ते थिक पेपर आहे ना, थिक पेपरवर देतो, आतला ते काय बर्गर म्हणा, पिझ्झा म्हणा खाऊन ते फेकून देतं. तर त्याला एवढं, त्या मुलाला एवढं समजत नाही की दॅट इज इक्वेल टू 1 kg वूड ऑफ द फॉरेस्ट. ओके, ते प्लॅस्टिक पाऊचमध्ये पण येतं, ते पाऊच फेकून देतं. आणि त्याचं असं रीतीनं आता हे तुम्ही कोणाला त्या मल्टीनॅशनल कंपनीजला कसं सांगणार तुम्ही हे या मुलाला त्याच्या योग्यतेच्या पेक्षा तुम्ही अनेक पटीनं पगार देता, तेवढं पगार देऊन तुम्ही कसं सांगणार. त्यामुळे हे एन्व्हायरमेंटल सायन्सचा जो प्रश्न आहे, तर ते बऱ्याच गोष्टी तुमच्या हाताच्या बाहेरच्या, आमच्या हाताच्या बाहेर, हा प्रश्न कसा सोडवणार.
ॲक्च्युली या सगळ्यामधला सगळ्यात महत्त्वाचा प्रश्न आहे, तुम्ही महत्त्वाचा मुद्दा घेतला आहे, ते म्हणजे बिहेवियरल चेंज कसं घडवून आणायचं. आणि बिहेवियरल चेंज घडवून आणणं ही ओव्हरनाईट होणारी गोष्ट नाही आहे. आणि त्याच्यामुळे व्हॅल्यू सिस्टीम्स जागेवर आणणं हे सगळ्यात महत्त्वाचं आहे. म्हणजे थिंकिंग, इट स्टार्ट्स विथ युअर थिंकिंग. म्हणून मी म्हटलं की सस्टेनेबिलिटी हॅज टू बी अ कोर व्हॅल्यू. आणि ती कोर व्हॅल्यू करायची असली, म्हणजे इंडस्ट्रीला हे समजतं बरेचदा की कुठेही तुम्ही इंडस्ट्रीजला गेलात की कुठल्याही धंद्यामध्ये लोक असले की ते म्हणतात ओके व्हॉट इज माय what are my mission, what is my vision, and then what are my core values, हे जिथे शिकवलं जातं. आता बोलण्याच्या कोर व्हॅल्यूज आणि वागण्याच्या कोर व्हॅल्यूज याच्यामधला फरकसुद्धा असतो बऱ्याच ठिकाणी. त्यामुळे सस्टेनेबल थिंकिंग हे ज्या वेळेला कोअरमध्ये येतं त्याच वेळेला हे होऊ शकतं. अनफॉर्च्युनेटली आत्ता झालं आहे असं की दी कोर व्हॅल्यू इज ओनली मनी. ओके. आणि द वे मी माझ्या प्रेझेंटेशनमध्ये काही गोष्टी होत्या ते तिथे वाचलं नाही मुद्दाम, पण त्याच्यामध्ये एक आहे की वेन यू स्टार्ट ट्रान्झॅक्टिंग इन फॉर्म्स अदर दॅन मनी, that is the only time when the real value would start emerging. आणि ते आत्ता होत नाही आहे. आणि ते व्हायचं असेल तर वी हॅव टू ॲक्च्युली ऑलमोस्ट गो बॅक टू बार्टर सिस्टम. म्हणजे आम्ही काही प्रयोग केले होते आणि वी आर ॲक्च्युली थिंकिंग अबाउट इट व्हेरी सिरियसली. बार्टर वॉटर नावाची एक आयडिया माझ्या एका कलिगनी सुरू केली आणि त्याच्यामध्ये द आयडिया इज आय विल गिव्ह यू वॉटर, क्लीन ड्रिंकिंग वॉटर. Okay, but I'm not going to give it to you for free. But I'm not going to charge you money for that. Okay, you have to show something that you have done, and then I'll give you that. आम्ही हे गावाच्या लेवलला ॲक्च्युअली चाललं होतं की ज्या ठिकाणी ड्रिंकिंग वॉटर प्रॉब्लेम आहे त्या गावामध्ये फॉर एक्झाम्पल युनिसेफचा एक वॉश नावाचा प्रोग्राम आहे. ओके, तो वॉश प्रोग्राममध्ये ज्यांना माहिती नाही त्यासाठी ॲक्च्युली इट इज दिस इज अबाउट सॅनिटेशन अँड हायजीन अँड वॉटर. ओके, तर त्या प्रोग्राममध्ये तुम्ही जर का चांगले मार्क मिळालेत, कारण वॉशचे रिप्रेझेंटेटिव्ह असतात गावागावांमधनं आणि दे ॲक्च्युली ग्रेड यू की तुमच्या घराच्या जवळ सगळ्या गोष्टी क्लीन आहेत का, क्लिअर आहेत का, प्लास्टिक नाही आहे ना, ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी ज्या वेळेला किंवा तुम्ही ठराविक प्रकारे वापर करताय का गोष्टींचा, इथे तुम्हाला जर का चांगले मार्क मिळाले या वॉशमध्ये, समजा इफ यू आर ग्रेडिंग फ्रॉम अप टू 100 जर का पॉईंट्स असले आणि तुम्हाला 80 पॉईंट्स मिळाले तर आय विल गिव्ह यू 100 लिटर्स ऑफ ड्रिंकिंग वॉटर फ्री फॉर दिस मंथ. ओके, सो फ्री म्हणजे काय, तर मी ड्रिंकिंग वॉटरचा किऑस्क लावलेला आहे. यू कॅन जस्ट गो देअर अँड गेट युअर ड्रिंकिंग वॉटर. आता अशा प्रकारचे ज्या वेळेला बिहेवियरल चेंजेस घडवण्यासाठीचे ड्राईव्स तुम्ही तयार करू शकाल त्यावेळेला हे चेंजेस होतील. आणि हे तुमच्या आमच्यासारख्या माणसांनी रोज इट इज लाईक हॅमरिंग एव्हरी डे आणि रिलेंटलेसली हॅमरिंग करत राहिलं तरच हे होणार आहे. बिकॉज आपल्या अगेन्स्ट करणारे इतके फोर्सेस आहेत की एव्हरीथिंग इज बॉट बाय मनी आणि हे जोवर संपत नाही तोवर याला एंड नाही आहे. आणि वी हॅव टू फाइंड वेज टू गो अवे फ्रॉम मनी इन युअर रेग्युलर ट्रान्झॅक्शन्स. दॅट इज द ओनली वे इट इज गोना हॅपन.
My basic issue is different. Okay, water is in cyclic form as per the law of conservation mass. What about the plastic waste? इतकं प्रचंड झोपटी प्लास्टिक चालू आहे यामुळे हे
बरोबर. परवा ह्याची कलिग आहे तिने प्रियाने उत्तर एक चांगलं दिलं की प्लास्टिकचा वेस्ट कधी संपेल, ज्या वेळेला प्लास्टिक मॅन्युफॅक्चरिंग थांबवाल त्यावेळेला. सो इट हॅज टू, तुम्ही मुळावर घाव घातला पाहिजे. तुम्ही सोल्युशन्स दुसरीकडे शोधून उपयोग नाही. बी रॅडिकल, बी रॅशनल इन व्हॉट यू आर थिंकिंग. ज्या दिवशी प्लास्टिक मॅन्युफॅक्चरिंग बंद होईल त्याच दिवशी वेस्ट संपेल. अदरवाईज तुम्ही इट्स जस्ट ओल्ड वाईन इन न्यू बॉटल, दुसरं काहीतरी कराल तुम्ही.
कायद्याचा बडगा दाखवला पाहिजे डिसिजन मेकर्स.
बरोबर. पण आता आय थिंक वी आर गेटिंग इन टू आर्ग्युमेंट्स. आपण हे इथे थांबूया, आपण नंतर बोलू, ठीक आहे.
Any
Hello, I'm Pushkar Kulkarni here. I am trying a bit at creating green careers in the segment of groundwater. So the first and foremost hurdle, like all of you, is that whenever we try and go and approach CSRs or businesses, they are ready to pay for solutions, but they do not want to spend a dime on assessing the problem or either diagnosing the problem. So if I go, I mean, I'll give an example. There's a village or other watershed that we are, trying to work on, and we are trying to attract some funds for the same. The situation is so precarious that there's a government scheme which is actually being implemented to provide drinking water, but at the same time, the local village, the local school, the village school over there, the dropout of the girl students is quite higher because there's not adequate water available in the toilets for them. So they would want to pour in a large sum of money to build tanks, but where is the water going to come from? The I think over the past 3 years or so, we've seen about 55,000 crores or so being put into CSRs. Maharashtra received about 3,600 crores or so. In Pune district, in Pune division, I think it was about 383 crores, out of which only 20 crores went for environment. I'm not complaining about money going elsewhere, but shouldn't environment also be getting its fair share? The reason I'm putting out this issue today is because there are influencers like Mr. Bhargava and Professor Malik present here, who can perhaps help us with taking this to the policy makers and perhaps getting something done about it. Because unless and until we can showcase some examples of what can be done, how do we expect for things to go forward? We are not snatching anything away from anyone, but I just wanted to put it out there. I hope we can work something out of this.
So I think we've also encountered problems like what you've said, not just for groundwater, for education, for waste, for energy. It's like a lateral problem that runs across. But I've also seen communities in these villages who sort of come together and say, okay, if they're not willing to do it, can we collectively come together? I think the answer is to get that collective action going. So in Belgaum, where there was a drinking problem across, the group of women came and started guarding the groundwater well. And they said, जिस घर में कोई भी दारू पी के आएगा, उनको पानी नहीं मिलेगा. And the women took, नहीं, so आप दारू पियो, no problem. But you will not get drinking water. And that community of women continued to guard that water 24/7 round the clock with responsibilities. And that stopped the drinking problem in that village. Until they came together, it didn't happen, and because that happened, the kind of community power they were able to demonstrate to an external agency coming, then you can't not have them on the table, right? You have to have them in the table to be able to work with them. And I think if we build that together, then there's a different conversation that happens with entities. So you're able to say, "Aap tank bhi banao, but hey, let's also address something else along with that together." And then when that community need is much stronger, having worked with a CSR entity, when the demand actually came from people, it's very difficult to say, oh, I don't have budget for this in my CSR. You create ways to, sort of build in budgets.
The point I was trying to make is that there are good entities who want to support good projects, who want to support well thought out projects. My point is, but that pond is so small, it's not going to be able to cater to what is going on. And if this is the scenario in and around a city like Pune, God help us, what will happen for the rest of the country? I mean, 55 crores is a huge figure to ERTK in India. Over the past years, this much happened. So look at we keep boasting of huge lakhs of crores of our GDP and this and that and everything. But if the number is so abysmal in a city like Pune, 20 crores.
Yes, your
I
point
think,
is
yeah.
well understood.
I think Pradeep sir will be able to shed more light on that. Due to the crunch of time, we need to wrap it up. It was an honor conversing with all of you, and I personally learned a lot of things. And we will also be uploading the videos on YouTube. So if any one of you are interested in going through it again and asking more questions, do get in touch with us. We'll be able to manage it. Over to you, Shantanu.
A hearty thank you to all the panelists for having such an enlightening interactive session with all of us. I would now like to invite Mr. Pradeep Bhargava, our chief guest today, to give a small speech.
Hello. No, I didn't mean to be impolite, but frankly, I can see see all of you, restlessness to be. Couple of things in lighter vein. I struggle being called the chief guest at a program of PIC. If anything, I'm the chief host. मैं लड़की वाला हूँ, मैं बाराती नहीं हूँ, तो मुझे guest मत बनाइए, अगली बार बैठूँगा. The second point is, in any match where run rate has been achieved, victory has been done, why do you need the last batsman? Because mandatory overs हैं, इसलिए मैं आ रहा हूँ. So I'm here for this. But things I just want to mention, I have only a 18 slide PowerPoint. Is that all right? Yeah. So friends, the point I want to make is I have no PowerPoint. Even if I had a PowerPoint, I would be sitting here deleting everything that I've written in that PowerPoint because everything has been covered by these wonderful people ahead of me, particularly the panelists. So really speaking, and I'm glad I don't have to answer questions. They were very indeed penetrating, and I was thinking. So the very quickly I'll try and cover. अब बुलाया है ये फोटो वोटो भी लगा दी तो कुछ तो बोलना पड़ेगा ना. So I otherwise you'll say कि आपको बुला चीफ गेस्ट बनाया बोले भी नहीं आपको. So I'll say a few things totally in the spirit of what we're discussing. Yes, I just want to react to the first point where we said development and growth. I think understandable conceptually we need to be choosing development. But in बच्चों से पूछिए, career and growth is what is the mindset. They're looking at growth because the peer group is looking at growth because the whole entire hype is about growth. So we shouldn't, from career point of view, encourage them. Of course, needs to be development. So what I want to do is, really speaking, all the things that you wanted to know about career, what's the problem in the thing, etc., have been answered. So I don't want to say any of those things. I want to just say that what I see some of the major challenges and trends that are happening. Two, what you have to do is already there. I don't even want to say what we can do because we are the guys who have brought you into this problem. Actually, people like me are the ones who have created the problem for all of you today. So what right do I have to tell you what to do because we haven't done right things. Sir talked about in our times what we did. So let me just very quickly talk about something which I have been coming across. हिंदी में और होता है, इंग्लिश में भी और होता है, OR, and हिंदी का और होता है, and होता है. So all along in our life in various stages, we have been completely influenced by the tyranny of the or, the English wala or. We are always told you have to do this or do this. Let me illustrate, and this is something which will come to the specific point. I grew up manufacturing 40 years, longer, you can see. We were always believing in the early stage, hey, you want quality or you want quantity? I can give you things, but don't ask me for quality if you're wanting quantity. You know, we were telling others that there's a choice between, agar aap quality mangoge, I can produce only less. So we were made to believe that either you get quality or you get quantity. But the customer wants, everybody wants both, not either. We were also told in our earlier years, corporate drinking, etc., hey, do you want performance or you want integrity? I mean, values, ye kya baat hai? Aapko result chahiye na? I'll get you result. Don't ask me how I got it. There was a time, some of you youngsters don't know, but we were saying, अरे सीधे से तो कुछ काम नहीं होता, आजकल भी होता है. But you know, we were given a choice, either you want performance or you want ethics. Don't ask for both. So again, we were put into the dilemma. You want performance or you want values? Don't ask for more. English wala or. Not, but we want Hindi wala or we want both. Similarly, we talked about functionality and aesthetics. I was in consumer durable business for a long time. We're selling television to make a living and so on and so forth. During that time also, initial stages, hey, you want a functioning TV? Don't ask me for a good looking TV. You want a functional music system? I'll give you. So we were again putting a choice. So the citizens and everybody was put into this dilemma of tyranny of the or. Same thing happened with Vikas. Do you want development or you want environment? Because assumption was Vikas se Vinash hota hai. Again we were told you cannot have development without destruction. Development and destruction are, you have to make a choice. Again, over time we have proved, no, you need development without destruction. Vikas ka matlab Vinash nahi hai. So I think this over the years, this whole mindset has moved from I want both. And this is precisely the limited point I want to share with you. Green environment is one of those. I won't use the word development or growth, whatever. I want green. In addition to I want development, and so on. So this concept of having both is something. And how does this happen? You can't have a last line in your production system which is painting things green. I come from a manufacturing background. I make green product means what? Sala banao product और last में एक painting shop लगा दो उसको green बना दो. That's not what green happens. You can't make a good quality by saying the last stage of a manufacturing process is quality. बाकी कुछ भी करूँगा end में quality कर दूँगा. So this belief that quality, belief that green can be an add-on operation like Six Sigma. They say सब कुछ करो but end में Six Sigma कर रहे. The whole concept has to be ingrained from the very beginning, and that's what I think a whole lot of you were answering that question by saying that listen, if you want, green is not an add-on. Green is not an optional subject that I take 2 credits. Green has a part of a core curriculum in our life, and that I think has happened in recent times. And why has it happened? All of you talked about it, but I'll just mention a few things because in this context, and that's what is ultimately linking to your career. So really speaking, multiple things have happened. We talked about the crisis. That is not a concept, it's not a research paper. Climate change is already happening. We talk about countries, level of seawater is going, ice things, all those things are known. Similarly, we individually are also realizing, sir, in our time, forget about water, we never thought anything is a constraint. Where is the problem of minerals? Where is the problem of coal? Where is the problem of iron ore? There was indefinite perception in 30, 40 years ago, so we used it indiscriminately. Today we are realizing there's a finiteness of resources, including water. So that is also putting a pressure, and I just want to leave it with a social pressure, international pressure, societal pressure, norms by countries, all that is the best thing that is happening, at least I come from an industry background, that the business case for green has gone up phenomenally. I mean, today in our business we realize that a few years back when we were still looking at green, I was involved in setting up the first green factory in India, in Pune, in Ranjangaon. I had to plead with my management, Global Cummins management, let's make it a green factory. They said, well, how much extra will it cost? What does it mean? I said, well, it feels good to make a green factory, we owe it. No, tell me the numbers. And I struggled, but we came out with this. Today, the arithmetic is totally different. If I don't make a green factory, it's going to cost me more. If I make the right product and the right process, it's going to think. So the business case that has emerged, and I'm saying from a corporate point of view, and that's true with everything, with civil society. When PCMC wants to promote rooftop solar, it is also a situation. So the driving factor, in addition to all the social pressure and all the other things, etc., which I'm feeling very positive about, is the fact that there's an emerging business case for green. And I think that's something just to illustrate, and I'm very fond of this, saying this, etc. And just in CII, I'm involved with a process called Green Co rating, where we get organizations to get all the way. Green Co is not about just wind, solar. It's just not about rainwater harvesting. It's the entire conduct, pura achar sanstha ka, which takes into green supply chain, life cycle cost and everything. And when we rated this, etc., our study in 2022 was about 150 companies had invested 3,100 crore. And they recovered in 1 year 3,800 crores. So the payback period was about 9 months. And they're going to get this 3,800 crore year after year. So really speaking, it just makes so clear sense. So I think they want to encourage, and just want to close here with only the thing. So friends, the wind are blowing in the right direction with respect to social pressure, political pressure, environment pressure, and business pressure on the positive side. So there's going to be opportunities across. I don't even want to enumerate. You guys have already talked about all the opportunities that come and so on. So forgive us, the generation which has got you into problems. Your job is to do damage control and see that you don't have to stand like me and apologize to your next generation. So these students and things, the career opportunities are phenomenal. And I'm saying this is phenomenal because anything you touch today, any product, any services, it's coming in. Some by enthusiasm of youngsters like you who have taken a career out of it, some under fear of compliance, some under social pressure, and some under business gain. So all that I'm saying is, you do it. I don't want to get into the whole lot of things. I think, Siddharth, you mentioned about various courses that are available, certification courses. CI is offering a lot of them. There are many, many opportunities. Is this something where, and I think the question was very valid, do I have to be a scientist or physicist or biologist, or do I have to be an activist to be able to do green? Guys, anybody you come is required in this journey. So career opportunities, growth opportunities, besides development opportunities, are phenomenal, and I wish each one of you great success. And I just want to limit here because I'm conscious of the fact. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
With everybody's permission, I'm going to say a few words of thanks because I didn't want to go through the whole process. But the key thing that came out of today's discussion is that economy and environment are two sides of the same coin. And that realization is coming. Today we are 50, 70 odd people deliberating on, thinking about it. So this is a mini think tank. I don't think I need to say more. The young panelists are fantastic. Congratulations and thank you very much from PIC, from ECC. The chief guest is my old friend, but thanks to you for sharing your thoughts and coming here. Likewise, Nitant is an old friend. Thanks for coming here. Don't want to go into a vote of thanks, but this has been possible only because we always get solid support from the PIC main office, the PIC director, and PIC chief administrative officer. So this has been a family. And this microcosm has to grow in a synergistic manner to make people understand that energy and economics are two sides of the same coin. There can be only one winner, which is energy and economics. Thank you very much.